Good morning everyone and welcome to our Apprentice and Supervisor webinar. I'm Chris Bombolis. I'll be your MC for this very special presentation. Can I firstly start by acknowledging respectfully the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet and elders past, present and emerging. Well, as you're well aware, it is Electricity Safety Week and we've had a host of activities going on and today is no exception. Electricity Safety Week reminds us all that while electricity helps power our everyday lives, it can be dangerous. The ESO is hosting free digital events focusing on health and safety in the industry, particularly a focus on mental health. These events are tailored for industry leaders, electrical workers, contractors and apprentices. On Tuesday we had the Electricity Safety Summit and heard from Dave Burt talking about the challenges he faced at work while he battled depression. Yesterday our webinar for electrical contractors and electricians featured football legend and Australian Survivor champion Matt Rogers, and by God he was very inspiring when he spoke about the challenges that he's faced, including how he manages stress and personal loss. And today, of course, very shortly, we're going to catch up with the boys from Aussie workwear brand TradeMutt, Dan and Ed, and they'll be looking at the stigmas around mental health during our digital session, especially for you guys, the apprentices and supervisors in the electrical industry. Today also happens to be World Suicide Prevention Day and Are You OK Day. And that reminds me of what Dave Burt told us or informed us about, and it's a question that we should be asking our mates: what's happening in your world? To open discussions that quite often are very difficult to have. So on World Suicide Prevention Day and Are You OK Day, I'd like to encourage you all to maybe get the ear of a mate and ask what's happening in your world. As I said, today we have some very special guests. The boys from TradeMutt, Dan and Ed. Glen Cook from Energy Queensland will be joining us as well, and Arc Flash survivor Mark. So I acknowledge their presence today and their contribution in our presentation today. If you have questions for our speakers, because we do have a panel session at the end, type your full name and question via the chat box to the right of the live stream. We'll ask them during the panel session at the end of our session today. Your full name must be entered so you are eligible for a competition that we have as well, and we know who to contact. And to change the size of your screen, select the 4 small arrows next to the volume bar at the bottom of your screen. Now, I mentioned the competition. We love a competition at the ESO. We have 5 TradeMutt vouchers to give away today. You'll learn a bit more about TradeMutt from Dan and Ed very, very shortly. But the gift vouchers will allow you to select from a range of bright, out there, high quality workwear shirts and hats and gear. So get your questions ready. Dan and Ed are wearing some of those examples today, and they are bright and they are loud and they get the message across. So I look forward to catching up with the boys very, very shortly. For your chance to win those TradeMutt vouchers, all you need to do is submit the question for any of our speakers. So stay tuned, get those questions in. If your question gets asked during the panel session, you'll go into the draw to win those vouchers. If you're watching from a conference or teaching rooms, and I know we have a number of those out there in digital world, you can still participate. All you have to do is get your phones, register via the website if you haven't already, and submit your questions via the chat box like everybody else, and bingo, you're in there with a chance to win those TradeMutt vouchers. One of the real issues in the electrical industry is arc flash, and today we'll hear from a survivor, Mark, very, very shortly. Mark's arc flash accident left him in hospital for around 3 weeks and off work for almost 3 months. Mark's sharing his story to raise awareness about life-saving consequences of working live. So let's Hear Mark's story.
I've been an electrician for about 18 years now, and I'm very confident in what I do, and I still ended up in hospital. I've got up that day, a standard day, no thinking anything of it. I says that I'll bounce in and do that power quality assessment we had to do. I'd assessed the work to be done live, and I was very confident of what had to get done. It was possible to do it live. All I need to do is clip on these 4 crocodile clips, which isn't a hard task, you know what I mean? I can see the buzz bar. I've clipped on the first one, and then I've went to clip on the second one. And as soon as I've touched it, it's just went, just white, yellow flashed, you know what I mean, in my face, and just a really disgusting noise. I wasn't unconscious, but I sort of realised what had happened, and I could just smell it. All my hair burnt, my skin was all burning, and I could see all my clothes were burnt and things. My skin was hanging off and that, and I was just all black.
So when I first found out that he'd had the accident, I was at work, but when I answered the phone, I couldn't actually understand what he was saying. It was all gibberish, but all I got was, I'm in a bad way, I'm being taken to hospital. I just panicked, yeah.
In Mark's case, while he was working in the switchboard, as a result of attempting to pull off 2 pieces of insulation, he exposed the risk of 2 separate electrical phases. In bridging that out with his screwdriver, he's created a large arc flash with high fault current available inside the switchboard, which resulted in a large fireball which burnt Mark considerably.
When I first walked in to see him, he was in a hospital bed and he was just black, and his hair was singed. And
the injuries that I actually sustained would have been, it was actually 12% body burns, so that involved skin grafts. For that to heal, they cut all they grind your skin off and then lay that on top of the burns.
so the next day after the skin grafts, as soon as I walked into his room in the burns ward, he was just head to toe in bandages. He looked like a mummy. I think that's when it hit me.
The first week was not an enjoyable time. I was on splints, you know, in full arm splints, leg splints, couldn't even pick my own nose. Every second day I had to get all my dressings took off. So you've got dressings stuck onto skin grafts or sticking to you, so you need to go into a shower and then get all wetted up to release all the stickiness of it, and then take it off, and it just sticks to your skin, and it's sore. I didn't know what I was going to look like. I ended up in hospital for 3 weeks, and yeah, off work for 3 months. And what I didn't realise then, due to what I was going through, how it had hurt Mel, how it had emotionally strained her, and mentally and emotionally. It's not a nice feeling to know that the person you love is obviously upset and hurt because of what's happened to you.
Mark definitely didn't realise how much his accident had affected me. A realisation of how serious it was. He could have died. Yeah, just had no idea. When Mark started having his rehab, that was hard because he had been in hospital for such a long period of time without moving. He was really happy when he called me that he told me he'd walked for the first time with a Zimmer frame, so he still had to lean on it, but I was really proud.
There's also a big emotional burden that's getting put on your loved ones, whether it be your wife, you know what I mean, your family, your parents, or something like this. Puts an emotional burden on them.
He loves his work. He loves to be always, you know, keeping his mind active. So when he couldn't go straight back to work, that also held some frustrations and some think a little bit of anger. I was really happy to see him back at work. I do want to be with him for the rest of my life, so I am grateful that he is healed.
You can prevent arc flash by eliminating the hazard. Turn the power off and isolate the equipment, even if that means rescheduling the work for another time. Remember, working near Energized Parts can be just as dangerous as performing live work. Arc flash risk isn't just limited to large switchboards. They can also occur in smaller switchboards, electrical supply pillars, and even large electrical equipment. So plan your work and always follow your safe working procedures.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would like to get out there after my accident is just to all the other Sparkies out there, just don't work live. Don't put yourself in situations where, or like I was, just because you're trying to please the client, just because you're trying to get the job done faster. If you've got a wife, kids, family, like, it's just not worth it. Nothing's worth your life.
Well, that is an inspiring story, and Mark is truly grateful that he is a survivor, because it could have gone very, very, very badly south. And it is a pleasure that I introduce Mark. He does have a message for each and every one of the 56,000 electrical workers and 12,000 contractors in Queensland. Mark, please join us.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an early one this morning. First of all, I'd just like to thank Electrical Safety Office, Workplace Queensland, and Chris as well for just giving me the opportunity to speak again at one of the webinars, just to sort of try and emphasise the point we're trying to get across here. And I think as well sometimes that we forget that, especially now more than ever, that the world's in a bit of a crazy situation at the moment. That we also need to just sit back sometimes and remember that we're lucky enough to live in a society or live in a country where we've got organisations or governments as such that are willing to spend money to teach us electricians or try and educate us or just give sort of something back to us. So basically all this is done just to try and keep my fellow electricians safe. So we might not agree with the governments and that at times, but I think when they put money aside to do things like this for us, it's appreciated. So it's Supervisors and Apprentice Day today. And as a Sparky, I'm sure there's a few Sparkies out there watching it, I'm sure we all know that we've I believe anyway that it's every tradesman's or supervisor's sort of duty of care or social responsibility to train our apprentices, because I'm sure we've all worked with that one apprentice or a few apprentices, I try not to swear here, that's pretty incompetent. So what we need to remember is being tradesmen, Sparkies, whether it's even chippies, plumbers and that, I believe that these apprentices, they don't really know anything when they come to work as tradies, so it's up to us. Like I said, we've got social responsibility to teach them, and I think when it comes to safety, you want to be teaching these guys at a very young age, and if they're coming in about 16, 17, 18 years old, then you've got to sort of spend that time when they're younger and teach them about the risks associated with their future career. And that's our responsibility. That's you're the supervisor, you're the foreman, you're the team leader. It's your responsibility to sit down with the younger guys and run through your safe work method statements with them. When you're building these safe work method statements, you obviously need to consult all your workers in them when you're making them. So when they're young apprentices, explain to them why we've got control measures to reduce the risks, and that's something I think, like, I like having apprentices because I like to try and teach them and I like to just make sure they're learning, because it's a nice comforting feeling when you see them progress in their trade or as a person as well. So just, if you're a supervisor and you want that extra money in your salary, then you've got to earn it. And I think teaching and ingraining safety into the youngsters is definitely where you need to start. And it's like things like your safe word method statements for your high risk work or tasks you're doing every day. You need to make sure when the guys are signing these and before the jobs, they need to make sure they're reading them, and you want to make sure they understand them, because anyone can sign that bit of paper and go off and do their job, but you've got that responsibility to make sure they understand and make sure they're implementing these control measures. And also for maybe some guys that aren't working on larger sites, they might be doing multiple service calls each day. You're going to make sure your job safety analyses are getting done prior to any work getting started. And what I used to do was I'd get the apprentices to fill them out. Well, obviously I'm with them, but I'm getting them used to filling out this paperwork and actually having a look around and identifying hazards. You know what I mean? And getting them to think about it, not just saying, look, sign this bit of paper here, like actually explaining to them what they're doing. Because if we don't teach them when they're young, they're not going to turn into good tradesmen, and we might get unfortunate accidents happen. So yes, you just really need to just keep on at them, and they're not going to get it first time. They're only young boys, man. So just make sure you're spending that time and addressing why we take a few steps back before we do any work and assess the risks, and then if we need to implement some control measures, we implement them and safely do that. And for example, it's just something I've seen over the last year or two, is there's been a few sparkies that have been dying when they're working in roofs or working on conductive roofs, and I just think that's something that we need to remember, is when you're jumping up, say you're just going doing some residential work, you might just be helping out a friend or a family friend. So you really need to remember is that there could be a lot of dodgy work done before you, and so obviously the insulation that was getting installed a while ago is quite dangerous. So if you're crawling into roof spaces, you should actually really be turning the power off before you go in there. I mean, addressing the fact that there could be some unseen or unknown electrical hazards in that roof. And I really think that I've seen it even in the last few months that guys haven't been doing it, and I've been explaining to them, look, I don't care if the customer's not happy about the power going off, you turn that power off or you don't go in that roof. And sometimes you've got to stand up and say, no, this is the way we're doing it. I don't care if you're sitting playing your computer or you're doing something, I'm going to turn your power off because that's the safe way of doing it. So just make sure you're speaking to the apprentices and make sure you're keeping an eye on them, and if they're doing their own JSAs, checking them and chatting to them about it. And also, so it's Are You OK Day today, and I think it's quite fitting as we're working in teams to always have a chat with the guys how they're doing. So we are honoured today to have the boys from TradeMutt here, which will be speaking to you in more depth about mental health, and they'll know a lot more about me. But as a man and as a Sparky, and I enjoy working in teams, I always feel when you're working in a team environment, you really want to be speaking with the guys that you're working with, making sure they're okay. And I'm sure we've all been in situations where you've got colleagues that they might not be performing 100%, or they might just be being a bit awkward or a bit weird or a bit not themselves that day. Maybe it's somebody you don't like as well, but I always think you should just put yourself in their shoes, and instead of jumping down someone's throat if they mess up, like have a chat to them and say, look mate, is everything all right? Do you know what I mean? You got some problems at home, or they might be arguing with their missus, they might have issues, they might have financial issues. So I think before we start getting on people's backs or letting people frustrate you, you should just have a chat with them. It's easy to assume things, but you should just chat with them and ask them if everything's going okay, and don't be harsh and on people before you know what's going on in their minds. So yes, that's basically me. Short and sweet this morning, guys, but thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, Mark. Some very important messages there, and for all of you at home, especially the apprentices and supervisors, take heed of the warnings and the messages. It may save someone's life. And there is an extra special footnote in Mark's story. His beautiful and brave partner, Mel, you saw her in the film. Mark and her are getting married in the not too distant future. So on behalf of the ESO and all of us, we'd like to wish you two guys all the best in the future. So thanks for joining us this morning, Mark. If you'd like to ask Mark a question, don't forget we've got the panel session coming up a little bit later. You could submit your questions, type your full name and question via the chat box to the right of the screen. Asking questions puts you in the draw, remember, for the TradeMutt gift vouchers. We've got 5 of those to give away. And just as a final footnote, Mark's film, which is Mark Arc Flash Survivor, can be found at electricitysafety.qld.gov.au, along with a wide range of other electrical safety sources. I've got a question for you out there who are watching. Hands up those who know about the Look Up and Live power line mapping app. Anyone? Yep. Excellent. We've got a few hands up here. Well, the guy behind that is going to join us now, and I refer to Glen Cookie, as he's known affectionately, from Energy Queensland. Now, Cookie has been an electrician for 30 years in the construction and utilities industry. Extremely passionate about power line safety awareness, and we know that because we do a lot of work with Cookie, and he is out there peddling those messages. He was the driving force behind the award-winning Look Up and Live free power line mapping application that helps workers plan work next to power lines, a very important issue in this industry. And to talk about his baby, here is Glen Cook.
Thanks, Bomber. Well, thank you, Chris. Great introduction. Thanks to the ESA for inviting me here today to talk a little bit about myself and the Look Up and Live app. As Chris said, I have been an electrician for around 30 years now. Look, the bulk of that time I was on the tools, climbing poles, digging holes, putting power lines back up. Unfortunately, part of that role is I've done over 300 shock investigations. Part of that role as a senior inspector, as I got to be towards the middle part of my career, was attending fatalities and very serious incidents, much like Mark was talking about before, where people have received severe burns and obviously fatalities. So my career changed about 10 years ago. Like I said, I was on the tools, I was a work group leader, as you call it, or a supervisor. I got a phone call, and an accident had happened about 400 metres down the road from our depot in Hervey Bay. So my guys are all out working, you know, they're 10, 15 minutes away, and I realised it was just down the road, so I said, I'll jump in my car and go and find out what's going on. I started driving down the road. I pulled up at a set of traffic lights, and I could see to my right, there's a worker on top of an elevated work platform, and there's some paramedics trying to revive a person. And I've instantly gone, this is worse than I thought. You hate coming to these incidents, right? I immediately thought of myself. Selfish, I know, but I thought, why me again? I have been to several of these incidents. I look to my left, and it's the Hervey Bay High School. There's about 80 to 100 kids all lined up on the fence, and they've seen it happen. So I've gone to myself, why don't workers understand the laws that are around power lines? Like everything I talk about here today, it is the law. The laws are in for an obvious reason. Just people do not actually see the power lines when they're working near them. So on this particular day, it was a painter operating that elevated work platform. The power lines that you can see there on the slides are 11,000 volts. So on this particular day, the painter was using an aluminium paint roller. Now he didn't even touch those power lines. He just got too close, an arc formed, it went through him and he was killed instantly. Now when that arc forms, it's 20 to 30,000 degrees Celsius. Like if you're having a cup of coffee this morning, 70 to 80 degrees, it's 30,000 in an instant. Just a tremendous release of energy in that one point in time. We've had several fatalities in our business over the past few years. This was the last incident that occurred up in Cairns in July last year, where our operator of a frontal crane, they were moving a load around, and the frontal crane contacted an overhead power line, and the dogger that was looking after the load was killed instantly. These incidents are real, they're happening all the time. There has been 7 fatalities in Queensland since 2016, and over 60 serious high voltage contacts that are resulting in burns, serious injuries, and obviously equipment damage, right? And the thing is, like we were talking about before, mental health, and I've come across these incidents, so it's not just the families and the workers and the machinery involved, it's the Ergon and Energix workers that have to come and be involved in these incidents in their families as well. So it's just another thing to remember. Why do people hit power lines? I always ask this when I do a presentation. Now, the electricians out there can probably answer yes, but if you ask yourself, when you came to work this morning, how many people seen a power line? Most people will be sitting there looking at themselves going, how did Cookie know I didn't see any power lines this morning? It's because of one thing, it's called inattentional blindness. Basically, our eyes and our brain don't work that well together. Our eyes don't work like a video camera. It doesn't capture everything in your line of sight. Our brain chooses what we want to see. Power lines are built to a standard that are away from our normal reach in our normal everyday lives. Once we start working though, it's a different story. We've got ladders, we've got elevated work platforms, we've got farm machinery, cane harvesters, cane haul-out vehicles, all these different bits of machineries that can actually touch the power lines. So when I sort of got into the safety role, I put myself in the shoes of the workers, right? Plumbers, builders, painters, farmers. And I quickly realised that people aren't seeing the power lines. Because, I talked to a farmer, for example, say, so what happened on that day? And they go, Cookie, I 100% knew that power line was there, I just didn't see it. Then I quickly worked out it was this inattentional blindness and a lack of planning, right? So you have to have a plan in place to actually see those power lines. Now, there's a good new innovation out now, it's called a rotor marker. So if you get a plan in place, you can put these rotor markers on, and this dulls the effects of inattentional blindness. It is an administration control, but it is a good control if you actually absolutely need to be working near that power line. You really need to plan ahead, right? So I got to a point where I worked out that we've got underground power lines, but a lot of people don't hit the underground power lines. And why is that? Because they use dial before you dig and they get a plan, because they can't see the power line. When it comes to overhead power lines, most people go, well, it's overhead, you can see it. And we're relying on people to come on site and actually see that power line, but they don't. So we've developed the Look Up and Live app, which is available in the app stores today. I'd like everyone at home to grab their phone right now, go to the App Store or go to the Google Play Store and search for Look Up and Live and download that app. It's a very handy tool. It puts power line safety right at your fingertips. If you have a look at this, you're only a couple of steps away from getting safety advice from Ergon or Energix. Jump straight in. This is just a quick look at the app. Ergon, Energix, Endeavour Energy and PowerLink have now got their assets on the map. We're now talking to a few other distributors out there that want to put their information on the app as well. So as you can see, you can just jump in, type in address or scroll down to where you want to go to, find your work site. This is just a work site that I picked in Gladstone. You can jump on, you can instantly see that there's power lines bordering this property. So how are we going to deliver the gear? What are we going to do on that property? Who's in charge? Who's going to be the safety observer? What is the exclusion zone around those power lines? So even just looking at this property from a different angle, you instantly got the start of a small plan and you're less likely to come in contact with a power line already. You can print out the plan, jump in, call it whatever you want, press print, spits it out as a PDF document. You can now share it with all your workers, subcontractors, and share with everyone what the plan is to work around this power line. A 3-metre exclusion zone and the use of a safety observer will save you every single time. But we also want you to eliminate, for example, this one here, if it was going to be a large block of flats, let's talk to Ergon or Energix and try and get those power lines removed before the construction site even starts. Eliminate the hazard completely. That's about it for me, but once again, please get on those app stores and download that app and get yourself a plan. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Cookie. As he mentioned, get yourself a plan. There's the app, the details you've seen on your screen. And we thank you, Cookie, for joining us here this morning. And I note we've already got some questions for you, so you better get ready, get all your info right. And if you do have a question for Cookie or for Dan and Ed, who are joining us shortly, or for Mark for that matter, don't forget, submit your questions, type your full name and question via the chat box to the right of the screen. Well, let's take another twist in our presentation this morning, and we're going to talk to the guys from TradeMutt, Dan Allen and Ed Ross. Now, it's an Australian workwear brand that aims to make tradies look and feel great at work. And these two look great this morning, and they've set the whole mood in the studio this morning. And in doing so, by having that feel and that look, it reduces the rate of male suicide. We're talking about things. We don't feel awkward. Dan and Ed founded the TradeMutt brand after Dan lost his best mate to suicide back in 2016. The loud and vibrant shirts act as a catalyst to start a conversation, which quite often, for most of us, is a bit prickly to actually begin. So we need a starting point, and maybe this gear will give us that starting point around mental health, particularly in males. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Dan and Ed.
Well, thanks very much for having us here today, guys. We're super happy to be here. So as we were introduced, I'm Dan Allen, this is Ed Ross. We're the co-founders of TradeMutt. TradeMutt's a social enterprise workwear company by tradies for tradies, and we make funky, eye-catching workwear designed to act as a catalyst to starting conversations about mental health and make that invisible issue impossible to ignore. Now, it's important on Are You OK Day today to preface this by outlining exactly where our position is in the mental health space for trades in the blue-collar sector. So we aim to drive the social and cultural shift required to allow blokes, tradies, blue-collar workers to find it a little bit easier to open up and actually talk about mental health. But to set the tone, it's important to give you a bit of the background to the story of how Ed and I met and how we came to be the founders of TradeMutt. Ed and I met on a building site. I was a few years out of my trade, and Ed was a greenhorn, fresh off a stint wrangling cattle in central West Queensland. And Ed had a healthy appetite for knowledge, or was extremely annoying, as people like to describe him, and I was very patient, so I got lumped with this bloke. We formed a formidable relationship on site, and as we tend to do to get ourselves through our days, we talk a whole lot of nonsense. What would you do if you won the lotto? Or what kind of businesses can we start to maybe get off the tools? We had an idea about creating some funky workwear. We thought, there's nothing out there in the market. We thought that, we're sort of sick of wearing the same old car key and high vis to work. We thought, come on, let's make a difference here. So we went to Officeworks, we bought a packet of pencils and we printed out some paper and we started designing. So what you can see here is probably the next Melbourne Cup winning jockey silks. Of course, you can see the polka dots there on the left. That's a very groundbreaking design that we came up with. But of course, we were never going to produce such an ugly polka dot shirt. And we made the polka dot shirt. So this is, obviously we know nothing about building shirts. We can build a house, but we definitely can't build a shirt at this stage. So that polka dot design was something that we just thought, well, let's see if we can get a shirt made. Ed wore that shirt to work every day for what, 2 months?
3 months, I think.
3 months, washed it every single day. It's covered in Sikaflex, silicone, all sorts of stuff, but we were worried the ink was going to run. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with producing a fashion brand.
Yes.
So fast forward 2.5 years, and we've actually implemented some designers and a production team to help us navigate that journey. But a very important message that appears on the top right-hand pocket of all of our shirts, the letters YNWA. So the reason why we got into the mental health space, obviously, has been mentioned previously. I lost one of my best mates to suicide in 2015. Now, it was my first experience with suicide, and something that really changed both of our lives, and really highlighted the fact that there was a real lack of understanding around the mental health space in Australia, particularly for blokes, particularly in the blue collar industry. And we really wanted to take a bit more of a light-hearted approach. Now that Y in WA stands for You'll Never Walk Alone. So my best mate Dan, who took his life, was a die-hard Liverpool supporter. And if you're familiar with English Premier League and Liverpool, that's a song that they sing to their team before every game. It'll put the hairs on the back of your neck standing up. So that's a tribute to Dan, and it's also a message for anyone wearing any of our gear that you're part of our community and you will never walk alone. So fast forward 2.5 years, and we've got a few cool prints, and we've come a long way from the polka dot shirts.
Right. Oh, that one.
Oh, now, so whenever anyone comes on board with TradeMutt, they get that card, which we just skip past. But you take on a responsibility to show empathy, show vulnerability, and always take a non-judgmental approach. Now, one thing that we never saw coming when we started this journey was that we were actually going to be able to empower people to talk about their own mental health. So when we started this thing, the message was simple. I wear this shirt, I send a message to you that I'm okay to talk about anything that you might want to talk about, whether on site or off site. I don't judge, and I'm always there for you. But this guy here, Carl, Chippy from New Zealand, really broke ground for us. Initially, I bought some shirts because I wanted to support the cause, but I've found that wearing them has actually helped me too. I generally don't like attention. I'm not a fan of groups of people, and I'd rather hang out quietly in the background and do my own thing. But there's no hiding while rocking one of these bad boys. I can feel the looks when I'm in public, on and off site, but I no longer care. I own it, I lift my chin and I strut. Maybe not that dramatic, but it feels like it to me. I feel my own anxieties fade and I have a newfound confidence in myself, and I very much like that. We've managed to partner with a few awesome organisations around Queensland and Australia, pictured here with the Hutchies crew.
Oh. Clicker. Clicker.
And we've managed to crack into a few mine sites, Townsville City Council, we've got McMahon Services down there as well, and that's Big Ken Ross, Ed's old boy up in the top right-hand corner, who's never talked about mental health in his life until now.
Righto, so this is where I come in. So how does TradeMutt take action and make a positive difference? So obviously, as we've spoken about, we've got a large range of funky, out there workwear and products that act as a catalyst to starting conversations about mental health, not just once a year, but on a daily basis. We've been able to build a brand with a couple of rough melons behind it. So Dan and I have been putting ourselves out there, showing a lot of vulnerability, and trying to set a really good example for everyone out there that it's okay to speak up, talk to your mate, and seek help when needed. Got a really large digital footprint at the moment, so we've been able to expand across our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and with our podcasting as well. So we've started TradeMutt's 120 Grit podcast, the podcast for the working class. We've had a wide variety of guests on there, guys like Greg Martin, Darren Lockyer, David Shillington. We had John Millman on there the other day, JC from Powderfinger. Them all talking about their life experiences, stuff that they've been through, resilience, and how they've overcome some major hurdles in their life, and how mental health doesn't discriminate. We've got TradeMutt Toolbox talks, so much like this, except not quite the production level. On the last Tuesday of every month, we get an industry professional to come in and speak about their field. Last month, we had Lockie Stewart from the Man That Can project talking about the 8 fundamentals that all men must master. Vertical integration with aligned projects. So being a social enterprise ourselves, we've worked with social enterprise and non-for-profit manufacturing over in Cambodia to make our hoodies for this winter with the She Rescue Home. And we're also now working with Sendable, which is a third-party logistics company which warehouse and dispatch all of our products and orders every day, and they're people that work with multi-cap with a intellectual disability. So it's really rewarding for us to be able to make an impact sort of through our supply chain. And then, 5% of all of our profits go into our non-for-profit foundation called This Is a Conversation Starter, which is, so TradeMutt's 120 Grit podcast. So you can see this on YouTube or any podcast app. So you can see there we've had a wide variety of guests. Sam Gardell is a good mate of ours who is a electrical business owner here in Brisbane. and he talks about his journey of starting his own business, running into some financial trouble, and then rebuilding himself and seeking help, and how that's made such a massive difference to he in his life. Here's a short clip of Maddie Boyce. He's a carpenter here in Brizzy, and also a good mate of Gardy's, and we had him on the podcast.
How many other people just need to sit next to their mate and just go, hey, look, I'm struggling. And then him or her to go back, yeah, me too. And then there's that connection. And then there's that, authentic human connection where you can share your stories. So that's pretty much where it was born from.
It's an interesting story because I remember the plumbing apprentice when he first reached out to us like 2 years ago.
Jimmy.
I
don't think he listens.
He'd be surely be listening. Jimmy, he messaged us. It's the first time he ever, reached out to us. He was at TAFE on the north side, and it was smoko time or something, and he's gone outside, and there was a guy wearing a TradeMutt shirt, and he sat down and started having smoko with him, and a couple other guys sat down. They were all talking, and they basically just laid it all out that they were all struggling. They're all going through different shit, but they were all sort of in the trenches together. And that's always stuck with me because he was like, no one there was trying to solve each other's problems. We were just all there knowing that we're all fucking in this together. You know what I mean?
TradeMutt Toolbox Talk. So as we were saying, at the last Tuesday of every month, we get industry professionals to come on and talk to our audience. It's completely free, and you can come on and see professionals in their field talk about different areas of mental health and mental wellbeing and how we can make improvements in our lives. Here's the She Rescue Home. As we were saying, made our hoodies this year, and then we've also been working with the Work Restart program, which is people that are incarcerated currently, but are getting some really essential skills for life outside of prison. So they've been making some products for us as well, so boot covers and our grill skirts, barbecue aprons.
So TX is our charity that we've also founded off the success of TradeMutt. So being able to sell some shirts has also been able to allow us to form and establish our own charity and really complete the circle of what we consider to be our full circle approach to mental health. So as I said, TradeMutt is driving the social and cultural shift around talking about mental health. But what happens when you might strike up a conversation with someone who goes a little deeper and maybe you're not sure how to help them, but they need to be referred on to somewhere else? Well, that's where TX comes in. So whether you're a tradie, truckie or blue collar worker, don't let it get any harder. Text or call, this is a conversation starter, and you can see the number up there on the screen. So TX removes the physical and financial barriers that exist to preventing tradies, truckies and blue collar workers from being able to access professional mental health support. And we know what it's like when we're a tradie. We spend up to 10, 12 hours a day on site, and there might be very little time to actually go and make an appointment with a GP, get on a mental health plan, and then go and make an appointment with a psychologist and actually get some of that help that you need. We're removing those barriers. We want to make it as easy as possible. You can text, you can call as many times as you want, and we also practice outbound, so we will, the TX Foundation will also check back in with anyone who reaches out. You can use it on the dunny, you can use it at smoko, you can use it in bed at night. It's very easy, guys, and would encourage anyone to reach out and practice that help-seeking behaviour. This is a bit of an old picture, to be honest, but when we say we've built this whole organisation from the ground up, this is our warehouse out at Morningside, podcast room down the bottom, and we've just added a level up the top there on top of that second story there, which is housing our psychologists. So, we've got a big task ahead of us, and through shirt sales, TradeMutt currently funds 2 full-time psychologists to be able to provide free support for anyone who needs it. So we're currently unfunded by the government, but we could use all the support that we can get.
What's this one? This is a new one.
Skip through it.
Sorry, guys. Just to finalise, obviously, it's Are You OK Day today, and obviously there's a massive groundswell around mental health on a day like today, but we need to remember that it's mental health. It's important to look after our mental health every day. So if you or anyone you know wants to access a private sector mental health professional, please reach out to the TX Foundation and get the help you deserve. And you can also see more at tx.org.
One key takeaway, guys, is, as Ed said on Are You OK Day, a lot of statistics around mental health, and a lot of them can look very scary. There's one statistic that really does matter, and it's that 100% of us actually do have mental health, just as we have nutritional and physical health. Nothing to be afraid of, and it's something that we all need to embrace and talk about more. So to reach out Our website details are there. And yeah, thank you very much for the time today, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, guys. On a serious note, if you or a friend or a colleague or a workmate is struggling, then here are some key contacts that will come in handy for professional help. And we heard from Matt Rogers a couple of days ago just how important professional help is when problems are identified. We are not all problem solvers, and we are not professionals, and there's a few organisations that do a fantastic job, particularly in the mental health space. If you've got a question of Dan and Ed, or of Cookie, or of Mark from earlier, we're about to open the panel session, and all you have to do is submit your question. I've got one for you two guys to consider while you're catching your breath and we're getting ready for our panel session. Having seen the gear that you've got, the workwear, and you know how colourful it is, and it's out there and a conversation starter, I want to know, particularly with my boss sitting in the audience over there, whether you consider branching off maybe into casual wear for, you know, weekend casual sporting wear. It's very popular with the young kids these days. And for me personally, I'd like to have some gear like that to wear into the corporate office. You know?
Yeah. What do you reckon?
You're saying you want to look like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I could get away with thongs. I don't know if we can pan that camera down,
thongs.
but part of their work gear, and let's have a look, down there, it's shorts. And they look like New South Wales shorts, so I'm a bit worried about that. But there's your corporate, there's our new corporate look.
Yeah, mate, don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah, well, we've got a wedge of products coming out. We've actually got Australian made and Australian cotton t-shirts coming out in the next couple of weeks. That's really exciting. So it's cotton from St George, and we've been made here in Brisbane. So that's really good.
Particularly at this time, it's important to support local industry, isn't it? 100%. And all our producers and local manufacturers.
Exactly.
What we can where we can.
So we've got some some hoodies and stuff as well. So plenty of stuff coming.
And thank you for our vouchers. And don't forget, all the people who ask a question today, go into the draw. We've got 5 vouchers, $100 each. Yeah. They can get some good gear for that, can't they?
Get in there. Get in there.
Time now for the panel session. I better bring this back into order, some sort of order. It's hard with those two, I've got to tell you. The two to my right, much more sedate and professional, and then I go over here to the two amateurs. So, anyway, let's get into the panel session. Thanks for your questions. Keep asking them. We'll try to get through as many as we can. Mark, you're first up. I see you're nice and relaxed. This comes from Kylie. How do you gauge if someone has what it takes to be a good tradesperson? And are there certain qualities you look for in an apprentice?
Yeah, I think that's an easy one, to be honest. Yeah, it's all about attitude. Yeah, to be honest, mate, I've worked with some apprentices or trade assistants that weren't the best, they weren't the most skilled, they weren't the smartest, they weren't the fastest, but they had the correct attitude. And attitude will get you a lot further sometimes than brain smart. And it's one thing I've always looked is for if they've got the right attitude toward learning and wanting to know stuff and being keen, then so I always look for the right attitude more than strength or fastness or that. Attitude's number one.
So the attitude can then help with their ability, and then they can learn if they're good learners.
Yeah, if you've got the right attitude, you can be moulded into a great tradesman with the correct training. Yeah,
cool.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. That was for you, Kylie. Now to the TradeMutt boys. This comes from Nev Atkinson. Would you consider making ARC-related clothes?
Yeah, all our work shirts currently are 100% cotton, so they should be all good to go. I don't think we've got the ARC.
We don't have the accreditation.
Accreditation on them, but they are 100% cotton, so
Right, we're already there.
Yeah, if the demand is there, then yeah, definitely as we expand, we're just a growing business. So, you know, we're just trying to keep up with demand currently as it is. But yeah, most definitely in the future, it'd be great to be able to produce some both FR and ARC rated clothing and get all the Sparkies on board.
Well, after today's broad-reaching podcast and our webinar today, that little place in Morningside might need a bit of work.
It needs a bit of work anyway.
Let's move on to our next question. This comes from Elsa, and it's to you, Mark, again. What's your advice to apprentices who feel like they've been asked to do something that is not right, but they don't have the confidence to speak? They're not sure, they really have a gut feel that they shouldn't be doing it, but they're being coerced to do it.
I can understand that might be hard if you're like maybe 18 years old and your boss is like some old tough tradie. My advice would be speak to them, but if you can't do that, you're a bit worried, speak to some of your other colleagues, speak to other people you work with, and if that doesn't work, speak to me and I'll speak to your boss. Yeah, that's not a problem, eh? But I understand they might be a bit worried, oh, the boss pays my wages, but...
Nothing like a ferocious Scotsman
yeah,
confronting a boss.
Give me a shout, mate, I'll go and see your boss, man. But yeah, don't be scared to speak up, because nobody should be asking you to do something you don't feel comfortable doing. But yeah, speak to other colleagues, or speak to someone else that can help you out, or speak to me. But yeah, don't be afraid to speak out, and don't be afraid to ask the wrong questions or that, but just try and get that confidence to speak the truth.
Excellent. Now, what we could get you to do is then wear the TradeMutt gear, go out to the work site and encourage that person to do the right thing.
Yep.
Excellent. Right, we've got it all wrapped up in one. Let's move to a question from Jake, and this one's aimed at you, Cookie, so your turn, my friend. What's your advice for those wanting to stay in the electrical industry for a lifelong career, and what kind of training and development opportunities would you recommend for someone who's starting out and wants to make it a lifelong career? You've had 30 years plus.
I suppose the first thing is to find something you're really passionate about. Like, obviously really enjoyed being an electrician, but like Mark said, you've got to have a good attitude and you've got to want to learn. You really can't wait for someone to give you those opportunities. You need to go and find that thing that you're passionate about, do some training in it. I was lucky enough to sort of get into some management type roles and had very good mentors. So you've got to find someone that's got the knowledge, that's willing to give it to you, right? So, and then I got into, did a bit of a management type diploma, but I've also got into training as well. So training helps me do these presentations that I've got to do a lot. So just depends on what you think your career path is going, but you've got to find something that you're really passionate about.
Just a follow-up question on that. I'll put my old journo hat on. A young Sparky, you've got the apprentice, and they've got to go to tech, got to go to TAFE, do their paperwork and all that sort of stuff. They quite often don't really want to go there, or they think, oh, it's a bit of time off work. How important is that in their career overall? And either of you could answer that one. Some of them have the attitude of, a couple of hours off, I'll just attend here and I'll tick off the boxes and do my little paperwork.
I think the theory side of going to tech's massive. To be, if you want a full career in being a Sparky, there's so many different industries within the electrical industry, and having the knowledge of the theory behind how electrics works, massive. Yep. Because you've got a lot of guys that aren't the best on the tools with their hands, but they're really book smart, and you've got the opposite. You know what I mean? So if you can work together and lean off each other, you'll be a good Sparky.
Cookie?
Never be afraid to ask a question. Like, no one knows everything. You have to ask. Like, someone might assume that you know something, even when you get to the first day of your, end of your apprenticeship, first day into your trade, and all of a sudden you're expected to know everything. Well, you don't. You need to ask. You need to ask questions and gain knowledge. Like I said, find a good mentor.
And you blokes have been in the industry a long time. Do you constantly update your skills?
Yeah.
Do you read through trade magazines or update, go on courses, do whatever needs to be done?
We do CPD points, definitely, yeah, we have to, in certain sub-industries in it, but I prefer learning off old people, to be honest. Yeah, I've got a lot of older engineers that work with us, and I'm always asking them, right, like you've told me how that works, but explain to me exactly how it works, do you know what I mean? So I would always ask the older guys, and what I've always said to the younger apprentices is, like, see when you got your driving license and you were driving cars, that's you just learning to drive. I mean, you know how to drive, but you've not been on the road with 1,000 other cars there. And it's the same as being a Sparky. As soon as you get that little green card, then you're just starting out your career as a Sparky. Yep. So you're always learning.
All right, let's move on to our next question. It comes from Alicia Ketty. It's for the boys from TradeMutt. When will your hoodies be back in stock? Is this not one of your...
They arrived on Monday. I don't know why they're not on the website yet. I'll be having a stern word with our e-commerce manager when I get back in the office. No, I'm joking.
Alicia, we're supposed to be talking about mental health, not hoodies, Alicia.
There should be some on the website. Hopefully today or tomorrow.
Oh, clearly an in-house one, this one, was it?
Yeah. I don't know who's done that.
Someone's going to get a grilling when we get back to the warehouse.
They better start sweeping and tidying up the Morningside head office, all right? Let's go to Dan and Ed. We'll stay down this end. Comes from Kev. What's been your biggest achievement since starting TradeMutt?
That's a really hard question to answer, Kev, but thank you. Since we've started this journey, we've gone from being two chippies who, you know, with a combined 15 years experience on the tools, and we learned a lot of manual labour skills and how to work as part of a team and all that sort of stuff. Never did we think that we'd be able to take those skills and transfer them and to become a couple of social entrepreneurs who are also founders of a mental health charity. So the whole journey to this point has been absolutely incredible. Every day we shake ourselves and think, how are we in this position? But we know that this is exactly where we're supposed to be. You know, getting our high vis shirts here, that was a massive thing for us to be able to build a team now. We've got a team of about 14 across both TradeMutt and the TX Foundation, establishing our podcast, but even as simple as having some of the conversations that we have with people on a daily basis and how much TradeMutt has positively impacted their lives, it's absolutely priceless, and we're super grateful to be in this position, and we know that we're only just at the start of a long journey ahead. So yeah, it's a really rewarding one.
Right, to the guys in the colourful gear, this one's from Mustafazia. Does TradeMutt have a plan to approach local government councils?
So as I said in our presentation, we're currently, both TradeMutt and TX are currently unfunded by government. We've got a few shirts in the Brisbane City Council at the moment, but basically all we can do is keep driving this ship forward, making as much noise as we can, and wait for the councils to come to us at this stage, because you can spend a lot of time banging down doors trying to get into government departments, but at the end of the day, we just got to keep driving this bad boy. Hopefully they come and find us.
You get that corporate gear that I'm talking about, and they'll be knocking your doors down.
Well, we'll be ready.
To Mark, let's get back over to the other side. Comes from Julie. How has this accident shaped the way you feel or you deal with client pressure?
Yes, it's more you just need to be confident, and I'm sort of managing it from the point of sale now, so addressing with the larger clients that power needs to go off at some point, and maybe multiple times, not just for final connections of equipment, but we might need to be turning power off for assessments. So that was one thing that you see with the video, that I had a bit of client pressure not to turn the power off. But no, so it's addressed right basically at the point of sale with the BDMs right away. Like obviously if this is going to go ahead, then power's going to need to go off. It might need to go off for multiple times as well as for data logging. So we've addressed that right at the start, and it's black and white now.
So no compromise for you. If that client is not prepared to turn the power off, you're not prepared to do the work.
If that client doesn't want to turn the power off, I don't want them as a client, basically. Yeah.
And you express that each and every job?
Yes, okay. More so now than ever. At the point, before it was trying to be a bit accommodating, like we all are as humans. We want to accommodate everybody. We want to try and keep everyone happy, but sometimes we just need to take that stance and say, look, mate, the power's going off, man. If you want to get a backup generator in, if you want to get UPS or that in, we can organise that, but it needs to get done safely.
Have you had any blowback about that stance?
No, you can't. No, I think once you're firm with it and you explain to them it's safety, and you don't It's like you let them know it's not flexible. It's like this is the way it needs to be, and if you want somebody else to do it without doing that, then on you go, mate. But yeah, so you just need to be firm with them and stand by it. Yep.
All right, back to the TradeMutt boys. From Nate Coomer, how is the 5% of profits spent by the charity to help tackle mental health?
Yep. So actually, last financial year we donated 25% of our profits, which was awesome. And basically, it's all spent on getting psychologists on the phone. So it's the TX Foundation doesn't do any marketing or any paid advertising like that. It's all literally just for our psychologists and for our CEO to be able to run it. So it's that's how it's spent. Having psychologists on the phone currently from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
So we're currently funding 2 full-time psychologists just through shirt sales, and that's for free to access for anyone who needs it.
So they just dial a number
dial up, text, call. You can you can have a short consult, you can have a longer one, you can come back as many times as you need.
All discreet, like all those other.
All discreet, everything's but it's just basically removing all those steps, all those barriers that it might take otherwise for someone to actually get to a psychologist. Which for tradies who work the hours that we do can be really tough to do. So we want to make that as easy as possible.
Because if they've got enough courage to make that call, sometimes we're just a bit hesitant about actually, coming up with details and all that sort of stuff. So you've made that initial approach. So here's, a great avenue to continue the conversation.
Exactly right. We know how much, how many blokes actually struggle with help-seeking behaviour, and so it's really important for us to desensitise that and make it as easy and chilled out as possible, and to really make that first interaction with a mental health professional a really positive one. So that's our focus.
So basically, another question from Donna, and we say thanks to Donna for her question. What's your advice to tradies that can see a mate struggling, and how should they reach out? This is a very common question. We've done these for the construction industry, for many other industries where we've got, beefy, burly guys who don't show emotion, and all of a sudden you've noticed that someone's struggling. How should they reach out? How do we start? How do we progress it?
Yeah, I think it's a really fine line. It's actually quite a balancing act to not be too forceful when it comes to this mental health stuff. If you can see someone who's struggling, you want to try and help lead that horse to water, as we say, but you can't actually force that person to reach out and seek the help that they need. So in those instances, all we can do is put as many resources around that person as we can, inform the right people, if you're worried about that person, maybe have a yarn with the boss. Let them know that, the TX text line is there. It's by tradies for tradies, so it's very non-confrontational, quite easy to use. Otherwise, making yourself aware of the services that are out there. And one of the biggest things is if you do see someone that's struggling, you want to be able to show vulnerability yourself. One of the best ways to allow someone else to open up and actually address the fact that they might be doing it tough is to talk about some of your own struggles. There's nothing like just coming in hard out the gate and saying, mate, what's wrong? It's never going to work. It's you got to kind of chill it out, maybe take it to the pub, have a beer, and just shoot the breeze, like mates, build that connection, build that relationship, and that's how we really cut through.
Over to you, Mark, for our next question. It comes from Harrison. After your accident, was it difficult to return to the workplace, especially working on switchboards, considering how horrific your own personal story was?
I think we're getting a lot of questions this morning, eh? It must be those TradeMutt vouchers that they're getting. I think, there was a little bit of hesitance going back. Initially, we opened the switchboards and being around the electricity, but it's just something that I've sort of mentally dealt with. There was a little bit of hesitance. It's a common question a lot of mates as well as colleagues have asked me, and to be honest, as long as you're switching the power off, you've nothing to be scared of. Do you know what I mean? But it's more just when you still need to prove that the power's off. There is that slight when you need to prove if it's dead, it might not be dead. I think I struggled a little bit initially, but it's nothing that's holding me back. So it was a little bit of a struggle, not going to lie, but it seems something that's just sort of just worked through it.
All right, we thank Terry for his question, and this one's aimed at Cookie and yourself, Mark, and it's your top tips for supervisors managing apprentices. Today is all about apprentices and their supervisors, and we thank them for joining us today. some top tips, something that they really should adhere to.
I think empathy. You got to empathise with that apprentice. Like, we've been apprentices as well, so put yourself back in those shoes and go, what would I want my supervisor to do for me? Give them a bit of time to learn. Give them that a little bit of extra time. If it's a rush job, it's probably not the job for the apprentice. But yeah, just empathy, and don't forget to ask questions. Nobody knows everything. I mentioned it before.
I second everything Cookie's just said there, yeah. And it's time, spending time with the apprentice and understanding where they're at in their life. Like, they're an 18-year-old kid, they're going to go out and get on the drink, you know what I mean? They're going to turn up late, you know what I mean? It's like, I nearly swore there, but you don't want to come down hard on them. You don't want, because they're young boys, they're going to mess up, you know what I mean? They're going to maybe crash the work van, they're going to make mistakes, but it's just put yourself in their shoes and be firm with them when you have to be. Like, if they keep messing something up, like, well, why are you not understanding this? Like, what is it you're not getting? Like spending the extra time with them, and just don't give up on them because they broke your new Milwaukee drill or something. That's just part of having an apprentice, do you know what I mean? It's part of learning for them. So yeah, just spend that time and empathise with them, and just respect them as well. Like, being young boys, you need to
respect them, be understanding, you know, probably a bit of flexibility. And I reckon you two will agree with this. Communication is important. Always communicate with them. I don't know how many times I've heard apprentices say, oh, you know, my boss just goes off, does something else. I don't see him the whole day. How about a bit of conversation during the day? See if they're all right, see if they're coping, and regular.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, supervision. I mean, you've got to be there to advise them, to lead them, you know.
Yep. All right. We have to wrap up our panel session, but look, I wanted to pose a question to all of you, you know, just to have a think about this particular issue. We are here specifically for supervisors and apprentices. What's one piece of advice, and we'll go around the circle, that you would give to apprentices starting out in the electrical industry? You guys more from, you know, a working point of view and, you know, a general work site. You guys specifically from maybe an electrical industry point of view. So, Mark, you first.
I'll give one initial bit of advice. Don't buy cheap tools, okay? So, just spend your
work gear.
Yeah. No, the boss should be buying you that. Yeah, that should all come free issue. Yeah, with your boots, not thongs, but okay, sorry. I don't think we'll get that past the WHS guys. But yeah, no, seriously, just ask questions, learn, you know what I mean? There's, like, to be a good sparky, you don't need to be good at everything, but if you've got a good knowledge base, you can turn your hand to a lot of things. It's like, just enjoy it though, you know what I mean? You're going to need to do this for 10 hours a day or longer at times, so just have fun and enjoy it, and don't put up with any shit, you know what I mean?
Despite what happened to you, are you A, still enjoying your trade, and B, do you have regrets?
I'm a sparky man through and through. I've been off the tools for a few years, but I still have my most satisfying days when I put the boots and that on and go and spend the day on site with the boys. I mean, you'll never beat that tradie banter. I don't know what it's like I do know what it's like in offices, and I'll tell you one thing, the banter on site's a lot better. and another bit of advice would be is you need to be able to take it if you're giving it on site, man, because don't be shy if you're getting a little bit of banter or you're getting the piss taken out of you, because it's all part of being an apprentice, man, and you'll be able to do it to someone else after. But
no, we're not officially, no, we're not done, no.
But enjoy it, yeah. But just, just you've got to enjoy it, don't you?
Cookie?
Everything Mark just said. Like, you know, I was rattling, I was starting thinking through my head, and you mentioned everything I was going to say. But I think the big thing is asking those questions, because I remember when I was an apprentice, I sort of thought that I was expected to know stuff, and you know, you learn it through your trade, but I should have asked more questions, you know. Find out from someone that knows, find yourself a really good mentor, and that doesn't necessarily need to be your boss. If you know someone else is a good electrician or anything like that. I was lucky to have very good mentors. So
when you say questions, it should be from either end. It should be from the apprentice to the supervisor, and even the supervisor back to the apprentice.
So what I'll do, or I did in the past, I'd sort of like initiate a question, but instead of telling them the answer, I was like work it out. Like, do you understand why we're doing this? Do you understand what insulation resistant is? Do you understand why we want a high megohm reading? Do you understand the physics behind it? Not just, greater than 500 megohm. Like, do you know what that is measuring? So, like, if they just say, yeah, I get it, explain it to them. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
I think one more thing too is the electrical industry is so vast, right?
Yep.
You could go on so many different angles, find out the one that you like the most, and push your career in that angle, right? Yep. So,
yeah, great advice. You guys, from a tradie point of view, rather than specifically just the electrical industry, some advice for those starting out, other than get your boss to buy TradeMutt gear, right?
I suppose obviously asking heaps of questions is one thing I did as an apprentice. But I think the most important thing, if it's not for you, don't grit your teeth and push yourself through it if it's not what you want to do. I mean, Dan and I are two chippies by trade, and now we don't do anything on the tools. I mean, we're on a laptop and on a phone. Dan's on Instagram for about 6 hours of every day now. So don't think you've got to commit yourself to something that you don't enjoy. I mean, if it's for you, that's fantastic. If it's not, there's so many more opportunities out there. So don't put yourself through something you're not enjoying.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'd probably jump in and say, for a long time, trades have sort of been looked upon as a second-rate sort of career, I suppose. But I can guarantee that there is literally no better career pathway for anyone to learn all the skills required to be successful in any industry that they try their hand at. Becoming a tradie allows you to learn, working as part of a team. You learn practical skills. You get to see a job from start to finish, and you get to partake in all the processes that are involved to make that happen and bring that to life. So these skills are absolutely invaluable and can set you up to either excel in your trade and take it as far as you want to go, or it can give you the grounding to try your hand at absolutely anything that you want to do from that point. You can the skills that you learn as a tradie are so valuable, and that work ethic is something that a lot of other people miss out on, particularly at a young age. So if you're a young apprentice, understand that you've got an opportunity to really hone in on some practical life skills that can be applied anywhere, and who knows, you might even try your hand at starting a charity or becoming a social entrepreneur or absolutely anything else related to the trade industry. So it's a very exciting opportunity. Make the most of it.
And Olivia has snuck one final question in for all of you, so we'll be brief with this one, but it's a good one. I like it. Are you guys seeing more and more women starting out in the electrical and construction trades, like in the trades industry, broadly speaking?
In our little world, there's fantastic representation of females in the trades workforce. So it's awesome to see a lot of strong, confident, and very very highly qualified women who are excelling in the trades. So there are no limiting factors, to being able to become a tradie now, and it's awesome to see how many women are taking up a trade and really excelling and having really good support networks around them to empower them to keep going, because it can be tough. It can be tough, as Mark mentioned. We come from work sites, there's a lot of banter, there's a lot of, there's been a culture that we've set for a long time, but it's shifting. We're becoming more open about our mental health. We're becoming more, far more accepting of having women around us who are just as good as everyone else, and so it's fantastic to see. So
And they are a little less brutal on the work van. They don't drive them as hard as the blokes. Seriously.
That's true, yeah. Actually, we get a lot of feedback from that females on site are actually the ones who a lot of guys go up to talk to. So when we're talking about this mental health stuff, we get lots of feedback particularly from the women on site. They say that, a lot of guys feel like they're more approachable to talk about some of the stuff that they're struggling with. So that's a huge added bonus for a lot of sites out there.
For you guys in the electrical industry, just to bring us home, Mark and Cookie?
Yeah, I've actually worked with female electricians nearly with every company I've worked with, not specifically within the company, but on certain building sites. Not a lot of them, but there's been one dotted here and there, and Yeah, they've been capable to do the work, especially being a sparky. It's not as hardcore as a bricky and all that, like muscle-wise and that, strength-wise. But yeah, I've came across a few of them, man, and they've been decent tradespeople, would it be? Or it's kind of a tradesman, is it a tradesperson? Tradesperson. I just want to get my PC right. Tradie, tradie, yeah. But yeah, you see them. Yeah.
I'll be short and sweet, but yes.
Yeah.
Basically, I do a lot of trades from road transport, construction, and obviously agriculture, and I'm seeing an increase in female representation, particularly in safety as well. So, yeah.
All right, we might wrap it up there. Thanks everybody for joining us for our very special presentation today. Winners of today's TradeMutt vouchers will be announced on Wednesday the 16th of September via the Electrical Safety Office Facebook page. As we've said all morning, there's 5 $100 trade vouchers up for grabs on that Facebook page for all of those who've taken part. After this week, we'll post a question for electrical workers. Answer the question correctly and you'll be in that draw for those vouchers. I would encourage all of you who joined us today to head to the electricalsafety.qld.gov.au to watch the webinar again, along with a wide range of other electrical safety information and resources. Share it with your friends, with your work colleagues, with those in the industry. We'd really appreciate that. We will be emailing all of you a feedback survey very, very shortly. We really value your feedback. It helps us shape events like this, particularly now that a lot of our events have gone digital and they're in a whole new world. And we would appreciate your feedback, whether you like something, you want more of, less of, whatever it might be, and we use those to formulate events in the future. Can I say on behalf of the Office of Industrial Relations and the Electrical Safety Office, thanks to our guests today, to Dan and Ed from TradeMutt. Thanks for the vouchers, thanks for your support, keep up the great work, and I hope to see this huge factory soon, or business outlet in Morningside, with a cafe out the front that we can come and have a cafe and perhaps open difficult discussions that we've struggled with in the past. Sounds like a great idea. We'll get to work on that. And to Glen, Cook and Mark, thank you for joining us. Some great insight into what is a wonderful industry.
Thank you.
And to you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our ESO presentations, not just today, but from the last couple of days. We've certainly had great pleasure in presenting them to you, and we hope that you've taken a lot in and taken a lot back to your workplace. But for today, which is Are You OK Day and World Suicide Day, be brave enough to ask a mate, a friend, a family member, a colleague, anyone, what's happening in your world. It could save someone's life. Till next time we meet, stay safe.